a poetry symposium, a day of poetry, a day of language presented by the Network for New York School Studies in collaboration with the Brooklyn Rail, these being the two representatives of those objects. Thank you all so much for coming today. This has been a true joy to coordinate with Rona and Yasmine from the network and with the team at the Rail. Coordinating poetry events, curating poetry events, getting to be at them is one of the supreme joys of my life. So thank you all for being in that with us today. A few logistical things before Rona gets us started with the more fun things. You are in the Brooklyn Rail's gallery exhibition called Between Waves. Between readings and I guess during readings, if you're feeling it, feel free to walk around and see the works. They do tend to have audio, but today it's been shut off to focus on the readings. And logistically, the bathroom, should you need it, which I predict you will, we'll be here for a while. If you just go out these double doors here and bear with me, you'll take a right and go to the building just across this way. There are restroom signs. Anne's giving me a look. There are restroom signs if you'll follow them, and it's the building with a flag that says 68. I apologize in advance for that walk. But thank you for joining us anyway. I just want to thank you all on behalf of myself, on behalf of the poets here today, on behalf of the Rail, for joining us in what is a really wild time to be gathering. And I hope that we can use this time to think together and feel together. So thank you. And with that, I'll give it to Rona.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. This is really special, really exciting, slightly surreal. This is, I guess, a little oasis for thirsty poetry hearts. I'm just going to start by saying thank you, basically, to a few people. Firstly, to the Brooklyn Rail, especially to Tyhe, who, you know, this organizational process which has been done from Jordan, where Yasmine is, from London, where I was, and from here in Brooklyn, where Tyhe has been, I mean, it's just been the most kind of generative, cooperative, collaborative experience that we could have imagined. So we're really, really grateful for the space, for the help that we've had, for the flyer and the program that Tyhe has put together, for suggestions as to who might read for us today, and so much more. Our previous two events were organized collaboratively as well, firstly with Olivier Brossard in Paris, who I think lots of you know, and then with Riddell Olson in London at the Royal Holloway Poetics Centre. So we're really happy to have been able to further this kind of little tradition here in New York. I secondly want to thank my co-organizer and my dear friend, who is not my invisible friend, she is real, and some of you can confirm that, Yasmine Shamma, who can't be here today, but who has basically put this lineup together and has done a huge amount of organizing. But at the last minute, well, for reasons that kind of started about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, has been unable to travel to join us, and I'm just going to read a message from her that she sent over just to say hello. So she's here with us in spirit and like kind of in mind as well. So she says, "I'm sorry not to be with you today. I'm sorry there's a genocide going on today. It's taking place an hour's drive from which I write this note to say that I'm sorry. It's a hard note to write because, as so many of you know, I love you and your work and have for 2 decades now. A graduate school version of myself would have jumped over every hoop possible to be there today. But I'm not in graduate school anymore, and I'm instead writing at home with 3 small children by my side, wary of getting on an international flight because it may mean not having a way back to them. And these are the fears of the lucky, in comparison with my cousins so nearby. It has been, in contrast, a pleasure to co-curate this event with Rona and Tyhe. And Rona and I have been so lucky to work with the Brooklyn Rail on bringing you today's program. May the little oases of love, of deep engagement, of aesthetics and care, spill over in spirit today and replenish heart and mind in these overwhelming times. I hope one day to join you in replenishing within them. For now, my sincere apologies for saying so from so far away. So that's from Yasmine. Thanks. So she's greatly missed, and as I've told her. But I want to thank, on behalf of Yasmine and myself and Tyhe, our poets, scholars, moderators, for being here today, for sharing their time and their work. We are so excited and honored to have you here doing that for us. And I'm just really grateful to everyone who's come. Some of you have come from quite a long way away, and I'm really happy to see you here. Today is about listening to poetry, talking about poetry, catching up with old friends, making some new ones, and doing so in the spirit of connection and friendship in cultural spaces and through poetry. If you've been to our events before, and I think this is true of the Brooklyn Rail as well, we keep things casual, conversational, collaborative, so just please be easy, make yourselves at home, ask if you need anything, and have a wonderful day. And I'm going to hand over back to Tyhe now, and who's going to chair our first reading. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you so much again, Rona, and for Yasmine, who will be listening to this recording later. It has been a really immense joy to work on this together. So thank you, Yasmine. Thank you, Rona. I am very thrilled to be chairing our first reading of the day with three really incredible folks. For our first reading of A Long Day of Joy, we have Waldman, Edmund Berrigan, and Ayaz Muratoglu. And our first reader is going to be my very, very good friend, Ayaz, who I'm more than thrilled to be introducing, and then I'll be less exaggeratory, I promise. Ayaz Muratoglu is a poet and essayist living in Brooklyn, New York. Their work appears in the Poetry Project newsletter, Hot Pink Mag, the Yalabusha Review, and elsewhere. They work as an audio tech at the Poetry Project and were born on a Tuesday in April, and we are very lucky to hear them read.
Hi. One sec. I'm so honored to be here today. This first poem is called The Kid Who Accepts Blame. I'm hardly scraping by with all the crushes I have, towering over the city, and here I am in a van driving down to North Carolina. There's a highway stoppage. I'm that kid whose lips are ripe for kissing, plumped not from the tingling kind of lip gloss that makes your lips bigger, but from all the cherries I had for lunch. Let's be faithful to the soft part of the cheeseburger. Its juices, the most erotic thing I've seen in months. I surrender to the meat and the dairy and the soft, soft bun. My love, I have one it turns out, has found her headphones. They were buried in the bed and had slipped under my side butt. It is very sexy in there. A sharp crevice. Learn to love the cold pizza you find in fridge morning after. When I visited my friends, they were moving out of the apartment where the landlord had asked them to leave for the night when they had a home birth. Hey. I regret not a single thing. The receipt's in the back. I embrace the sunlight at dawn and the sunlight at evening. I especially love the sky behind the mosque at sunset on the very first Tuesday of June. Catherine has decided to be helpful today. Franny drove the van. Tashi is giddy at driving. I eat a Kit Kat for dessert and stand up tall like my mother tells me to. Drink your fill every day and night, Ayaz, and kiss it too. Good night and good morning in all the languages you can tongue. It's never a mistake to kiss the wet towel hanging on the door frame. The towel. A burnished underwater creates it. tassels at her sides and a wide berth above the door frame, singular parched hanging pattern. As the tide rises, the unheld towel turns to a fraction of its side eyes, and the children dance along it. The sky, it clears. With it, a snarky, overturned beach bag, cooler of berries and chocolate and pasta in a Tupperware, a gray to it. The man closes himself at the turn, resigning to a pulse beating from the water, catching an edge of the low-flying airplane. Facts fall from clouds into his lap. He cannot connect them, nor count them, nor face the water beating before him. Once home, he will brandish them to someone nearby, their ears turning down, and the towel wilting, stuck behind a wooden spoke, dust, the view out the window. This next poem is by the Palestinian poet Zachariah Muhammad, translated by Lina Tufa from Zachariah's book, From a Date for the Crow. And I'm reading it in solidarity with Palestine and Palestinians. He was crying, so I took his hand to steady him and to wipe away his tears. I told him as sorrow choked me, I promise you that justice will prevail in the end and that peace will come soon. I was lying to him, of course. I know that justice won't prevail and peace won't come soon, but I had to stop his tears. I had this false notion that says, if we can, by some sleight of hand, stop the river of tears, everything would proceed in a reasonable manner. Then things would be accepted as they are. Cruelty and justice would graze together in the field. God would be Satan's brother, and the victim would be his killer's beloved. But there is no way to stop the tears. They constantly pour out like a flood and ruin the lying ceremony of peace. And for this, for tears' bitter obstinance, let the eye be consecrated as the truest saint on the face of the earth. It is not poetry's job to wipe away tears. Poetry should dig a trench where they can overflow and drown the universe. Back to my sillier poems. Rabbits, rabbits. In the dream, you looked at me from a distance, then ran away. Were you thinking of a rabbit? The diaphanous underside of the slept-in comforter? In the other dream, we stepped out of the plane into a large apartment, and you pet the dog in the kitchen, rolled into the next room, carrying a small pelt to your chest, counting steps to the stovetop. When I found you later, you were crying and holding a rabbit, saying, I thought you had forgotten. And when I woke in your arms, the only thing I could remember was your license number, blinking, bright, on the wet counter. Guzzle for awnings. Picture the olive tree in September, bleeding green, whistling unripeness. I dream it, I count it, I return. My grandmother will eat fish later with her best friend. She told me so. Took a picture of the sunrise and hit return. The city eats clouds for breakfast, then turns to grinding salt from its far shores. It's a new year again, the returns. Subsuming my brother, I grow 3 beards a day, scraggly hairs on my face that prickle the pillow, no hope for return. Taste the fig, bee, skin, pop. The fig gets under the fingers, watch the season return. Someone named me recrudescence, coming raw again. Ayaz, the cold returns. This is after Bernadette Mayer, and also inspired by my mentor, Sophia Dalin. It's called Poem. A tooth for a tooth is a tooth. The capitalists are fighting about graduate school. Would you move here for me? The socialists, for the baby? I haven't been to New England in months and months. Winter here is already subsiding, never quite arrived. Jay's daffodils are coming up for sun. It's February. But like the liquor bottles carefully stacked behind the bar, I will walk home, paying attention to the unleafed trees and looking at my feet only sometimes. My phone is dead, or so I wish. Fell down the stairs and couldn't get back up. Tell me how to tell if someone is a Marxist or not, but be normal about it. I wish to live inside an anachronism. Phones and poems, to-go cups on the set of the historical film, pieces of cash framed on the wall, no cops. How embarrassing to dream of real change and not just the abstraction of it. Utilitarian utopia. I know people who spend all day on tenants' rights for money and don't give money or food to people who ask for it on the streets. Moral anachronisms. Or else, the tooth chips and you leave it like that. The cat climbs on its weird device by the door, is left alone. The microwave skips its turn. Bernadette says to remake the world. How biblical. This one is also a Bernadette-inspired poem. Housework is just math plus time. No one learns the way by groaning or sets the table without counting and hands. I'm learning how to sit again. The room is in a love triangle with green. Walk outside and there's a map. Turn and you'll see neon lips. They want to kiss you. In the park, we saw everyone in quilted coats. You lean across from me in a sandwich. I wrote the poem like I knew something. Ha. Test your thought at the party. If someone laughs at you, you're in the right direction. In another dimension, honey would go splat. Remember when you learned about viscosity? I don't know about refrigeration. Too cold in there. Chocolate factory. Now that's talking. Desert hearts. Still the tides play tug with the moon. Droplets of hazelnuts fall without abandon. You arrive, the coffee water just warming. Someone else walks in wearing tiny sunglasses, all black, a bag over the shoulder. Later, or earlier, the lovers drive through the desert, charting course slant of Nevada. Helen Shaver and Patricia Charbonneau playing pool, trading glances, watching stars appear over miles of sand. You sit on the dais, wrapped in white silk, trading memories with the Poirot's wind. On the ground, twisted olive branches with leaves approximating dawn, flickering light green underbelly. On notice, your eye doubles, falls out of itself. In the morning, sweat and sun and pupils set it. Then in the kitchen, white draped over the wooden chair, the pot set to boil. Oracles need home time, potatoes in the oven and greens in the stove. At the window, an angel tries to look in, locks eyes. The lone cloud sinks its way to the next stop. It's called Some Permanence in the Angle, which is a line that I borrowed from John Ashbery. When I have your hand to hold in the sidewalk and your legs to touch under your skirt, the fabric falling in the wind. In the cold New York 5 p.m. dark, my whistling reaches for the lit candle. Writing comes from a fight with God, which exists outside of time, so Attell was right, a dialogue with it. Thought is stripped. God set a fat, cold watch ticking, then forgot about it. Hence, universe, a fan siphoning dust and heat. My day continues to revolve around you, whether or not your curls set properly, how the moon looked out your window. Flower. I wrote this poem in St. Mark's Church at the Poetry Project. Flower. The child tells us that the cat has died, says the cat will always be dead. Later, we throw a stuffed animal across the room. Sometimes it hits the ceiling and then we laugh. The cat is still dead. For a summer, you took care of that cat, mostly you, and then once me. She sat with you while you wrote and read, and we fell further in love. We swam so much, the ocean caught us. I am unsure if I believe that ancient Greece was a philocracy, ruled by the image of the erect penis. How does time work, then? Is Thucydides writing about dicks when he writes about war? At Pentecost this year, I will remember it as Pentecost, and I will watch the tree outside the window, and I will feast. for that is the feast holiday, no? The oatmeal has gone chewy. On Shabbat this week, I took part in the hand washing. So Shadow, what do you say to that? The kitchen is an archive. I came clean for you. God, have you seen this place? The boss, like Pharaoh, so Ezekiel says, is a sea monster. Red mountains spell your name. I would tie my shoes for you. This poem is called At Night the Wheel, I took Alice Notley's poem At Night the States, which each stanza starts with the same line, At Night the States, and wrote from that form. So each stanza starts with At Night the Wheel. At night the wheel. At night the wheel covers the beachside, each angle turning in time, tracing its path along one narrow loop. At night the wheel crashes into the water and carries you, small one, away. Someone watches from the shore. It is dark and you hold on to the salt for comfort. In the house, the slats have glued themselves together, which sometimes scares you, though not tonight. Adults in the other room eat and occasionally turn window side. At night, the wheel turns and tracks you. A man stands at the door looking for stars. It is July, and the distances have begun to change with the seasons. At night, the wheel loops, its mechanics fading. It smells like plants, or you're wanting. We wait in line. Do you tire of me? Or catch the wine as it pulls from my lips? I'm splitting. You can catch it. At night, the wheel glows. The Luna Park fills, and honey, you're there too. My first contradiction has lost its footing. I told you this, then that, then this other thing again. You're on the way to the beach, and I'm in a cold room waiting. I lay something heavy on my chest. At night, the wheel roasts, an animal on a spit spinning, Ezekiel's chariot, God stuck in the turning spindles. Everyone's here. They came from the beach and are sweaty, sandy, tired, though in a good mood. In the yard, everyone talks. Someone tells me they went to Midnight Cowboy today, and I would like to see it too. The yard is full of everyone we know, playing a game, and they're about to go on an adventure. It's a dream. At night, the wheel spins itself into oblivion. Your ice cream cone melts, my toe gets stubbed, there's blood, no blood, just tears. Do you cry when you get hurt right away, or just after? At night, the wheel tucks itself into bed. What's in the bed? No babies, just legs and kisses. At night, the wheel breaks the banister open, then falls into this bouquet of sidewalk flowers. Can you catch them, or do you turn away at the smell? At night, the wheel carries you through the land of ancient Syria into concrete that splits open at the sight of green. In this space, you look after a cat, zooming. The sky turns purple, and you find yourself at the tall point. There's ocean and ballpark and a bridge far off. A teenager has brought you here, and your legs dangle. At night, the wheel rests, its legs spoken for, belly rubbed. At night, the wheel dreams of a pool, infinite water chlorinated, everyone splashing. At night, the wheel counts miles or ribbons or eggs or small cakes you get at the bakery around the corner or closets or ferns. At night, the harbors gather fern spores in tiny envelopes, tuck them into the small pocket of a shirt. At night, the wheel compresses colors into drawers, draws the colors, and you wear black, I wear red, will you, will I? It is the hottest day of the year. The longest has passed. You are sweaty, so am I. The water is far. When we get to it, you will pull the horizon closer. At night, the wheel talks about surgery. In the water at night, the scars are angels. At night, the wheel cannot stand it. The water takes a human and rocks it. At night, the wheel cruises by the bathhouse, New Year's edge blurring under angry tongues, vodka with pickles on the poolside, sparing no indignity, the spinning shackles you, ignorant loss, lights come on across the bay. At night, the wheel dreams of morning, a chariot pulled across the sky, kitchen filled with last week's debris. You arrive late and sweating. Ezekiel carries a promise down far from Moses, right into your bedroom. Can you catch it? The water bottle buzzes, its inside set to light, arms twisting like Greek trees in the story, cloud factories set by those who believe in them. At night, the wheel counts you awake. In the dream, your eyes heard me whispering for more till you said you'd had enough. A beautiful girl in a red dress tells you to look outside, then arrives with pomegranates and not peas, telling you she burned the rice. At night, the wheel harbors a secret about your father. All afternoon, I sat in this room in Nebraska, staring at a rusting sewing machine, watching the moth flap at the window. At night, the wheel misunderstands you, twirls the wrong word in its mouth, forgets its promise to its mother. At night, the wheel collapses. You, with your large sweater and hammer, carrying on with weather. Was that it? Your tutu burning, black plastic melting in the large metal container. Singing in the shower won't fix it, nor will the story of the mermaid, its cousin, the seal, collapsing at the sight of a wave crashing on the shore, stronger than, with nowhere to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayaz. Ayaz writes a poem that knows how important swimming is, and that's important in a poem. So thank you. Our next reader is going to be Edmund Berrigan. Edmund Berrigan is the author of the poetry collections More Gone, Gladstone Children, and Disarming Matter, as well as the memoir Can It? He edited selected poems of Steve Carey, and with Anselm Berrigan and Alice Notley, he is co-editor of the Collected Poems of Ted Berrigan and the Selected Poems of Ted Berrigan. Here's Edmund.
Who made this so low? And don't let me forget to put it back down once I'm done. Thanks for being here. And thanks so much to Rona and Yasmine and Tyhe for organizing this event. It's kind of echoey, isn't it? Okay. I'll try to leave space. I like that. Now batting, Minnie Minosa. So there was an idea that we should read a poem by someone else. And the first thing I was thinking was Kenneth Koch's poem to World War II, but then this morning I decided to go with one of my mom's poems, one of Anselm's mom's poems. This book is Alice Ordered Me to Be Made, and it came out in 1976. And when I was first reading my parents, when I was a teenager, I focused on this book and my dad's book, Red Wagon, which came out around the same time. And there's also a recording of them reading at Naropa, I think July 1976, that's available at the Naropa archive that's online. I used to listen to that quite a lot. So this is called Endless Day. Oh, me being me, designed to satisfy the gods, feeling it just as one, need not know it that every experience is a mystical one. The sun shines, the lamp shines, the albers glows. What a nice day. The doors open and shut, and when they shut, you're either in or out, right? In a supreme mental clarity, though its validity often appears in doubt to you, not to mention art in America. Who thought up this vocabulary one day in our air? I say, music is an emotion month. Poetry is an emotion bird. Painting is evident. Oh, John Covert, I was trembling like a gallows. I was sopping wet with every bit of God knows knowing what I was trying to hide, a lack of an abstract mystical expression for. His world, his ringling brother, his world, the life of a saint. Her world, her ringling sister, her world, the life of a saint. The world is the saint, honey sweet. Suete herte. The world is as fresh and free as its heart of yours, olive, black, aggressively anti-illusionistic, I'll bet. Brilliant, sparkling, crusade, mourning and fucking, with gestural looseness, with regal tension, with feathery, beautifully fleeting visions in praise of the dead. Oh, you in your frames, each splash that is alive forever. As the white light's a salt shaker, a splash alive forever. A rosary is so pretty, a splash alive forever, which are perhaps a little dull, a splash alive forever. Clashes from wall to wall, a splash alive forever. A small courteous gesture, a splash alive forever. Do I believe? I'm busy saying a splash alive forever. Crevice for love to enter and fill, a splash alive forever. Riding the billows' selves to the waves, a splash alive forever. All right. This one is comprised of lines from Bill Bergson's Blue is the Hero and Ted Greenwald's Jump the Line. And it's unfortunately titled Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. When it sank, it thundered. Wonderful, cries luggage. The dancing bustle of water exaggerates shoulder. Nothing for all your trouble, but a bruised everything takes place. Good old desk, he said, deliver us from swivels. Lean outward, I can remember more beyond this and that. Bands of distracted emotions snap. Your words will be guides. Is your beauty parlor inquiring after you? You would die first, wouldn't you? Take off your games of chance, leading with his chin. The earth opens and swallows you, and the lights go out all over the Flatiron Building, which brings me to the part. (13 to 16). The danger of sentimentality as it looks lovingly away from larger perspectives. We had it all, but only looked at some of it. Then decided that sum, the total, divided by perseverance, squared a cathedral fractal wound. Other times, why am I here? How did we come to disrepair? That car made a flip in multiple locations. Hearts raced. What am I doing here, now, with you? And which part of the emotion are we looking through? This is the last one. It's a few pages. Anselm and Mom and I recently edited my dad's collected prose. It started out as a selected prose, but they bumped it up to collected because they thought that would sell a little bit more, sound more authoritative. But there's other stuff out there. But, you know, it's sort of an emotionally turbulent experience dealing with all that stuff. And it was during COVID, and but sort of after a big bulk of the work was finished, I took a trip to Tulum by myself, and I sat on the beach for a week. And I think that distance gave me a little room to write this. I also wrote something that was really awful. But I thought this one was all right. Things to do on the Lower East Side in the late 70s and 80s. Walk into a strong wind with Mom and feel like we're about to be blown away. Hear the way Dolphy says, chump. What's up, chump? Hear Leroy say, hey, all right, in his deep vocal tone after your squeaky, high-pitched voice has just said, hi, Leroy. Sit on the stoop with Dad. When an attractive woman has passed by, he says, look at her, Eddie, woo, woo. You giggle, but this really has nothing to do with you. Make friends with Min and Linda, two women from Minnesota who live down the hall. They have a pet rat named Jenny Any Dots. One day, a rat appears in our apartment. We ask them if it's Jenny, but they say no. Dad sends us out. We walk around the block, but Mom is concerned to leave him alone too long. We return, and poet Hannah Wieners is standing there, giggling and sweeping. Dad has tried to kill the rat with fire and water. It is currently being slow chased around the leg of the kitchen table by the cat, who will not attack it. There's a knock on the door. It's Min and Linda. We can't find Jenny. They hold out a nacho chip and say, "Here, Jenny, Jenny." The rat runs out from under the oven, jumps into Linda's hands, and they leave. The apartment smells like burnt paper, and there's a puddle of water on the floor. Tell Dolphy you're a poet. He asks you to recite a poem. You are shy and say you don't remember any. He pointedly recites a multi-verse rhyming ballad about the virtues of being a redhead versus being bald. He completes it by pointing at you, smiling, and walking away. Hear the neighborhood kid Lawrence as he yells, and some, come down, at the third floor window. Sometimes the downstairs neighbor Byron does the same. Byron introduces you both to porno and to rap music. He stays up till midnight listening to WBLS and tapes the programs, playing them for you the next day. DJ Red Alert going berserk, zerk, zerk. BSK, we're making that green. People always saying, what the hell does that mean? You start taking guitar lessons at the 3rd Street Music School, which for some reason is on 11th Street. The teacher is kind, patient, and you enjoy the lessons. One day, Byron invites you over to watch a porno on VHS, and you decline because you have a guitar lesson. You leave the apartment and walk towards First Avenue. Byron is coming the other way, pointing at you with one hand and cackling into the other. You are a kid, so you talk to all neighbors with impunity. You're sitting outside in a restaurant downstairs with a neighbor, Adam Roth, a musician. He looks up and says, "There's Thurston," and calls out, "Hey, Thurston." A tall guy turns around and waves. "That's Thurston Moore of Sonic Youth. That might be the whole band with him." You don't know who these people are, and you don't care. Adam offers to give you an ice cream bar that's in his freezer if you go write a poem and then show it to him later. You agree, knowing that you have already written several poems. So you wait a certain amount of time, grab one of those poems, bring it to him, and show it to him, returning victorious with ice cream. When you see Adam later in life being filmed for a music video, he tells the person next to him that he once got you to write a poem by offering you ice cream. When you see Thurston later in life, he tells you that he used to see your dad talking to admiring young poets on the street corner near Gem Spa and thought he was a cult leader. Visit Tompkins Square Park. Head to the playground near Avenue B. Crawl under the turtle sculpture with your friend. 2 older boys come in behind on either side, blocking your escape. One produces a lighter and burns you on the thumb. Horrified by his own actions, he backs away and lets you out. Walk on 10th Street with your friend John to go buy some toys and get mugged by 2 older boys. They ask for your money, but you don't give it to them. "Oh, he's hard," one of them says, and then grabs you by the throat. Your friend says, "Give it to him." So you do. When John tells his mother, he gets down on his knees, afraid she won't believe him. You call your mother. She comes over. Then John's mother calls the police. They don't really say anything, so Mom says, "Tell them something. They're boys without fathers." They say, "Go to the Life Cafe if it happens again." But it won't happen again, and you didn't have a chance to run away. Be afraid to go past Avenue A, but do it anyway because that's where John lives. One time when you visit him, an older boy offers to shake your hand, but then reaches around and tears the leaf patch halfway off the back of your jeans. You run away, but realizing you can't escape, you tear the patch off fully and give it to him. If you collected a certain amount of patches, you could send away for something. It must have been something good. Visit John on another day just past Avenue B on 10th Street. Little Stephen and Clarence Clemens are there, filming the video for Artists Against Apartheid. Little Stephen addresses the flock of children. "Help fight drugs on this block," he says. "But I don't live on this block," you reply. "Well, help fight drugs on your block," he says. Watch yourself grow older. When you walk down St. Mark's Place to First Avenue, a trio of drug dealers are there and greet everyone with the words, "Sense, sense, sensimilla." Then one realizes you're a kid and apologizes to you. "Sorry, shorty." This happens several times until he finally asks you your name. Eddie. "Eric? Don't do drugs, Eric. Don't be like me." You become regular hello buddies after this, but to him, you are Eric. Watch your friend Roger's dad get embarrassed one day because you say hi to him while he's buying Sensimilla from another one of the trio. Grow weary of bougie eats. There's a period of your life where the only food you're interested in is an English muffin with butter and jelly, either from Odessa or Leshko's. Barbara Barg says to you, "You have to have some nutrients." So you order a chocolate milk. Bump into Allen Ginsberg, Joanne Kiger, and Donald Gurovich on the way to a movie with your folks. Decide to skip the movie and go to Jaffa Cafe with them instead. Alan is sitting opposite you. "How's your sex life?" he asks. "I don't have one." "Why not?" "I have no money and no privacy." "How's yours?" "Well, I can't get it up like I used to." "Aw, you're just in a slump," you say, encouragingly. "No, I'm old," he says. He draws Buddha on a napkin and gives it to you. Be tasked with retrieving Philip Whalen from Alan's apartment and escorting him to dinner. You and your brother arrive to do so. Philip is going blind, and as you walk down 2nd Avenue together, he looks at signs across the street, taking his glasses on and off, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. You do this on another occasion alone. Before you can ring the bell, Peter Orlovsky comes out and recognizes you. "Berrigan, right?" "Yes." "Do you still play the guitar?" "Yes, I do. What about the mandolin?" "No." "Banjo?" "No." "Zither?" "No." "Hammered dulcimer?" "No." "You should take those up," he says, and breezes out the door. Play ball in the street with Lawrence, because Tompkins Square Park is full of muggers, junkies, and homeless people. Play wiffle ball at various locations till the ball hits a window and everybody runs away. Play Nerf football until interrupted by the inevitable shout of, "Car!" or when the ball is thrown into the fence yard of the little missionary day school. The old woman who runs it gleefully tears out chunks of the stuffing before tossing it back in punishment for your transgression. Be in a Rolling Stones video. You can see the crowd gathered around from your apartment window as Mick Jagger stands smoking and strutting, looking cool, on a nearby stoop. Dad sends Anselm out with a signed copy of So Going Around Cities to trade for an autograph. He does not get one, but accidentally ends up in a shot in the video where Keith Richards is walking down the street behind him. Anselm has upstaged him, partly by being in the foreground, and partly by clearly not giving a shit that he's in a Rolling Stones video. Go to an engagement party on Avenue A and find out that Karen Allen is there. Dad brings her over to chat with you and your brother in the booth. "Were you scared in the part of the movie where the snake was coming out of the corpse's mouth?" She replies, "No, it was just special effects." You feel that she isn't really giving your question the proper attention, but you are in a daze, and she is being nice and gives you both her autograph. Walk down Avenue A with Anselm and get approached by a woman who asks you if you want to be in a movie. "No," says Anselm, confiding as we walk away. "We don't know what kind of movie it is." Thank you.
You're embarrassing me. Something more moderate here. Yeah. Eddie has reminded me to mention the reason we're all here today, which is to read from and talk about and celebrate and think about the ongoing and strange and funny and ridiculous group of people known as the New York School, which you can all join if you just, I don't know, stand up and do a turn. So thank you, Eddie, for reminding me that and for being funny enough to remind me. Our next reader is Anne Waldman, who needs no introduction, but I always read one anyway. Poet, curator, professor, performer, cultural activist, Anne Waldman co-founded the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics program at Naropa Institute. She was arrested at the Rocky Flats with Daniel Ellsberg and Allen Ginsberg in the 1970s, reading poems that challenged deliveries of plutonium for nuclear warheads. Author of over 60 volumes of poetry, poetics, and anthologies, including the Oases trilogy, Colors and the Mechanism of Concealment, which won the Penn Center Literary Prize. Penguin has published her books over many years, including Trickster Feminism, among several others. Her album, Sayamaki, was released in 2020 by Fast Speaking Music and the Levi Gorvey Gallery. New Weathers, Poetics from the Naropa Archives, was published from Nightboat in 2022, and Bard Kinetic was published by Coffee House in 2023. Also, when we're all done here, tomorrow you can join her at the Giorno Foundation for the relaunch of Giorno's Poetry Systems, and you all should. It'll be a really lovely second day. It's happening today as well, so let's get her out of here. And Anne Waldman, if you ask her, rarely if ever uses profanity in her poems.
Thank you so much, Tyhe. Thank you, The Rail. Thank you, Anselm, for helping make this space possible. Thank you, Rona, of course, and Yasmine. So sorry you're not here. We've got to be really careful these next days, years, hours, yugas into the future. Just keep making it safe for what we love and do and for each other and for everybody else as we can. So, I'm just going to do a little assortment. This is some older thing I don't think ever read. Let's see. Sorry. Where is it? Yes. Poem with a line by Barbara Guest. Midnight in the chrome attic. You were just beginning to hear in the whole impossible timing. This is a poem she wrote for John Coltrane. Midnight in the chrome attic. You were just beginning to hear in the whole impossible timing, weird dream of jazz in the room of tables and the Alamo, hitching through the Bronze Age, 20 years a room, never wanted an automobile, but now how old, wanting only a radio. My auntie at the glass factory, her old Ford never could envy noise and emptiness, iced tea goblet, a warm brown golden glass, a green toed doorstop lump put to the light, so oceanic, vast hills of green ocean. She never wanted a radio nor library, Aunt Jo. Useful thing, but everything a thing after the war. That, just a thing. The room was made for us then, left bank style. Clothes were you, runny tweed, your skin made up to match the girl on 125th Street. I wanted to be her and her baby that might look like you, the hand on brass nipple, a warmth the likes of never told, spittle, the eyes upward, so keen to love you, the horn that is a horn of plenty, upward and float you could, I say, the edge of the lamp fray. Paris always true to be held, and they were amassing Vietnam, another false start for gelded war. French get started early in the morning. I was stymied ever. Algeria, my friend says, you know nothing about occupation. Why so deadly? Cult of the dead, once more to do, to die, always to die. Some some to die simple, hate this, roll over my arms, all of you. You can instantly go to heaven when you die, or sing this as I kiss you, so, but not without name. Cling, hide, jazz that could wean you off death, chasing the train, fought draft and never came home. This is for John Ashbery, after he died. Shadow behind eclipse. When he died, a temperature went down, trees in the sky above Flatirons, tremor there, oh, didn't then did see. We were driving in the canyon moons ago when he had said then, closing in, fool for this love. He was our drumming ritual if you were a berserker and willed by constellations. He was our prize for being born, this world through school time, through bliss, through saltiness, and the question, can gentlemen do without? Never retreat from scrutiny or miss the enemy, burnt leaf, smell like resin. He was our fear of a sentence half dreamed if we couldn't seize the whole. He was our vessel, cave and boot, train ride to the province, meandering by river, panic to be left out of this landscape, a picnic, whole tome memorized, many colors. He was our vanguard of non-self, scent and doubt, of deep carriage into the unknown. What do you know of it if you know him not? When he did laugh, he did, and muse, that was a blue eye special. He was putting things next to one another. You somehow included. They, you, it, things didn't have to bond, but in poetry happen. And now listen to his voice with eyes gone wild for flowers, scratchy, reel to reel, 1966, sacred fury of a primordial world, half mannish garb on the sentence, a profile in the hallway across all crystal neuro pathways. Mirror, mirror, up to nature, and we had a glimpse. He was our respite, midnight excursions, off limits, sometimes a candle at the brain wondering, fallen star, what rhymed with it? Espoir, hope, blood heart held supine. He was our cosmography in a better world. You could count on relief, release. And that came out of this memory when John first came to Naropa. I don't know where we were up one of the canyons, and it was getting kind of dark, and I felt it, and it always comes back to me, this sort of atmospheric ride, and I was a terrible driver with John Ashbery, so that's where I was. Let's see. This was nostalgia for Jane Freilich. To you, Jane, muse, who rocked the brains of so many of my heroes, you a hero too, for wise quip, bon mot, and panoramic eye, and stand up all around beauty enters the room, our own Barbara Stanwyck, glamorous, slender, assured, always gracious, if not a bit impatient. Why aren't these people wittier? Perky, word, monger, wonder, figure of a liberated tongue, not miss a beat, voice distant in the ear. It was your classic parties with drink and din, kinetics of best talk in town, Morris, Barbara, John, Yvonne, Bill, Alex, Joe Lasser, Kinniston, Rudy, Red, Ada, Ned, Larry, Harry, Mimi, Maxine, Kenneth Smile, hubby Joe's hospitality, but always a bit of intimidation round you with your aura, and those staggeringly great poems writ in your honor, bunkering the head. You turn crazy Jane of poetic trope into upscale, glowing, modish, madcap Jane, legendary gossips, elegance mounting around you, star, la Freilicher, formidable, and by contrast, although you were never loud, the quietest paintings as if noise forever absent or transmuted into compressed tension and arrangement transfer was perfectly natural. John Ashbery calls tentative. Could we dare say egoless in this tribute? Spaces between objects come onto this window ledge, this table, center of the world, a hearth to mute a button on the roar. Hush, hush before you stroke the palette. Can't thank you enough, ingenious painter, for this and continuity. But back, come back again. Can't get enough of the parties of yesteryear. Terrific Fifth Avenue apartments readiness, gleam of us shining too. Happy to be in your realm a moment, and Jimmy showing up in what Kemward called his lub period, with biker chains around his neck, and Joe Brainerd lanky, innocently loose, and we had our own crowd and young stars in waiting with poetry and paint, Peter and Donna and Martha and Ted and Dick and Carol and Linda and Lima and Tony and Brody, and many people still smoked. I remember being haunted indelibly. How get so lucky to be here. High tone and that inimitable talk again will never be the same in purgatorial New York. Caught on time spiral, Jane, helping many of us, late arrivas, enter the Academy of the New York School Future, which opened its doors to us at a cocktail party. This is a poem with Cedar Saigo. I think he's in running to be a New York School poet, right? Cedar? That's a joke. Our Mind in Hand, recent poem of Cedar. SPG-9 recoilless rifle, a rocket really. Articles, round room at noon, yellow napkins soaked in a loose squashed blue with mosses rising. He's a test, the Queen's haunted fool, bumbling, bullying about the dungeon. Trace the Buddha's longest tear. Trace the Buddha's longest tear. The little red hen is still waiting for her transcription. A jewel-encrusted throne, oh well. Still ignoring Hello Kitty, whose punched-up mouth resembles a honey lozenge. Speak manufacturer of soft scrap, rattling of hounds, bonds. The end of a closed session whose gilded heaven pressed against what screen? Terza rima. It belies instability. It simply evaporates through the light. Swirling, elder typhoon. Did the command read backward? Shrouded inertia at the door? What's the use? The rasp of metal, color of sweepers. Weeds trampled, a cool mint green. They never miss a trick. Hyping the same hillside battle. Who is Andean, our last cartographer whose pointed distance loves relief? Conversation with a visionary botanist. Green grass, you said, and stepping back, human, and thinking it's true in this life. And of course, green is where I come from, a city. And the way we rise from the sea, mermaid, you mean? Not rural, not country. Mermaid is dream. Mermaid, the plucky greenery. Mermaimed, you said? And I said, our spectrum must be green. And anywhere else, our spectrum must be. And you said, fungal mat, my corazol. And then the love affair of fungi and algae, and not loan or lawn or loam, not necessary in many a place, but what they establish, symbiosis. Green from Old English, grow on, because tidal life is grow on, because plankton is grow on, because green, because you run on. Poetry is the pain of time. And I said, we walk by the ocean deciding to do this for our love, our attraction, our desire. And you say green is slang for money, and I say, oh, not that. Where on the spectrum, I ask? We'll walk on the cold tundra, talk about nanometers, photosynthesis, because grass and adherent will be present in your eye, even absent, eye of hiding, regret, eye of sweat, and you say something about dryness. And I asked how it might look rasping. Why not always green? You say drought or doubt. Then I asking, how urgent is this, or flood? You say we walk in a dark proverbial forest, in a dark city. We walk, a raven's cry, that it be protozoa, that they be alive too in you. Creature, earth and sky, what do you know of the rest of it? Fire is a first cause from your beastie breath. Imagine a death day that is dawn of cerebral work, not manicured to be a cradle of green. The knots where suns were burning came to me. And this, you said, the measure of precipice, that we come so close. And saying was the measure nihilismus, a measure of sorrow, that we come so close. Green a test, a herbicide, fat fingers, and said the measure of urgency, the small plant succulent that would be hardiest, nuclear fear, what got least, and we both said, do without me, world. Time tabulated all over, colors of peacocks, and you said our time a teacher of any color, stripe, and green, memory of catastrophe and green, intersection as you walked with your friend, scientists like the uninvited guest, you, welcome, interior space, perished, disappeared, gone extinct, a siege, someone you didn't know. They had agenda. They stalled your step, and then I looked over and... Such as losing the edge of objects at night, which is something I think Yvonne Jacquet said about some of her aerial painting. Losing the edge of objects at night, looking down. Love to mention attributes and notice our collective life beating, such as birds do, clairvoyant, pigeon heart, tender in Dharma, dove of Solomon, sight of vulnerable human falling in street, protest bare life, chemistry, sense of valence, purpose, relative truth with wings, polyhedral, combined capacity of element with other atoms when forming, compound, molecules to power, speak of, then drift. Or dream in Burkina Faso, blew the hut, rushes, the shaman turned her frames backwards, saw humans running through flames, rule of dram of mud, flight patterns, saw humans downed their own misery, did this, or under tin roof, play of glass, the celluloid slides, move in eternity, quick looking, no one's land. I see you, maker, also measure a pendulum, dedicated to an asteroid, valence and pairing in midsummer of lovers, astrology, theology, sweetness of honey, beekeeper saint, Kiki in her overalls, glowing against the darkness, end of time, wire of womb. Writing on water with articular glyphs. The sun on falling waters writes the text which yet is in the eye or in the thought. It was a hard thing to undo this knot. Gerard Manley Hopkins. Blue River in Rainbow Waterfall, artist calls it the color of sand, the color of glory to heroes of the old text. Women of Mesopotamia, 3,400 to 2000 BC are here. Cylinder seals continue their Grecian urn turns, sea anemones arrive, are here. Threads here, breaks rain, brooding, are here. The prerequisite of any layer of accretion, here, or thickness of pain of heart's blood, rainbow that is myriad, are here. Rain bowing to the weight, the arc and muscles of naming, action, the swerve, the crash, are here. An onomatopoeia of silence, welcome here. Here are my brood, and what is the realm you were, oh sister, Bernadette? Oh, Sybil, majestic star, my vehicle. Imagine a natural world, imagine underwater consciousness, the flow of that, and reset consciousness motif. Leaping again, imagine caged one, thanks to the filaments of the wild child who started to hear the water crash at the start, verily, and crash of sound, and built her own smithereens in relation to her. It was a Tower of Babylon, heave of the red, the hidden green starting to coast. The code is here. The turning of primary and secondary is here. Gradations here, scale as well, haunts of the inner art. And think of you lying in bed, wondering how the paint will bring the night down. We'll leave it to the weave of fingers of actioners in trance. One more. Maybe it's on. had to get up with the Giorno systems demands. So maybe I'll just... Da 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 da. Oh, human, the edge of you is human, and you are waking, thinking about a God. I am a God, but the waves the sky is not blue and will not hold. The last line from my mother's book of letters. This is her first day in class. Last night's poetry class started out slowly with only 4 people there at the beginning. This rather threw Bill Berkson. This is March 23, 1966. He must have been wondering if he's done something to lose them. He began reading from Finnegan's Wake and stumbling a lot and apologizing each time instead of just going on, which was a drag. But several more persons came, and that perked him up. Even so, the class was just about half size. Me, Sheldall, Bernadette Mayer, Brownstein, the dark-eyed, slightly plump young guy who was usually with Peter, Miss Mayer, a couple of blondes, and one nondescript dame. After reading several sections from Finnegan's Wake, about a page at a time, Bill read 2 translations from the Odyssey, the part where Odysseus goes down to the dead. One was a prose translation, one was Alexander Pope's, which still stands up pretty well in spite of all the padding he did to make his heroic couplets. Then he read Pound's first canto, which plunges right into the same incident, but assumes the reader knows all about the situation, so it's not a translation, but an adaptation, of course. The discussion was too general, really, for me to report it very well. Bill apparently is very much interested in the epic. Maybe he is writing one. He even encouraged us, the class, to try our hand at epic stuff, using ancient myths as structures, though cautioning us to avoid silly anachronisms, such as making Odysseus a U.S. merchant seaman lost getting back from Vietnam. He also spoke of Pound's belief that at certain periods, the Homeric, or rather post-Homeric period, in the height of the Italian Renaissance, the language of mankind was pure, i.e. words had unmistakable meanings and men used them to say what they meant. P, that's Pound, also considered poets the guardians of the language as well as the innovators for keeping it alive. We also discussed myths for a while. The reason Bill reads so much to us, he said, is that he wants us to read all these things ourselves and keep on reading them. We should all, for instance, read Homer in as many different good translations as we can, also Dante, and he can't imagine anyone's getting bored by Finnegan because it's so funny. It's also a good idea to take sections from Homer, Dante, and rewrite or rework them ourselves to get a feel of how to use language and maybe do something good. Perhaps I'll tackle something of the sort myself. Lately, it's been hard for me to write again. I'm getting to learn more about poetry consciously, and this can be inhibiting. Not that I'm giving up. Francis Lefebvre. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you. I need help. I know. Where's my roadie?
And to answer Anne's question just now, thank you, Anne, so much for that reading. Thank you, Ayaz. Thank you, Eddie. And thank you all for reading both your own work and for welcoming others into the space. That's what this is all about and has always been about. So thank you. We are now, excitingly to me, and I'm sure to some of you, going to take a moment to go get some lunch. And then we'll be back for a really lovely panel with Nick Sturm, Alexandra Gold, and Andrew Epstein, which will be chaired by Mandana Chaffa. That was originally, if you have your lineup, for 1:45. We are going to push to 2:30 so that we all have some time to eat. There are many, many restaurants in the buildings to my left and your right. So please take a look at those. And if you're having trouble finding the maze that is the restroom, please ask myself or Eleanor or Joel, who are there with their hands in the air. And now one word from Rona before we break for lunch.
Thanks. Just a quick message to say, if anyone does have flyers or books or any form of publicity for publications that are coming out that you want to share, if you just pop them on the table that's just over here on my right, people will be happy to look at them. I know May Losasso has a new book out on New York School and the art and architecture, and Patricia Hope Scanlon has put out a John Wiener's book, so do chat to them about that. But yeah, feel free to share whatever material you have with us.